Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dale Minyo. As we look to the rain gauge, about 7/100 of an inch through yesterday afternoon. Also, presented by Farm Credit Mid-America and sponsored by Rural First, Fight the Hunger, Stock the Trailer is a friendly competition that empowers young Ohio residents to combat hunger. This summer marked the 4th year of the program. 66 county fairs across the state collected a record-breaking 286,339 pounds of food for local food banks. This year, we were able to increase the total amount raised by over 25% while reaching a record amount of food raised, said Melanie Straight-Bach, Senior Vice President of Agriculture Lending for Farm Credit Mid-America in Ohio. With more than 1 million Ohioans facing food insecurity, it has been inspiring to see our communities come together in this way. Every participating county fair received a donation to support the activities that build future agriculture leaders. Additional prize dollars were given to the top 15 participating fairs in total. Farm Credit Mid-America donated more than $50,000 to junior fair boards. Winners were determined by calculating the total weight of all donations at participating fairs throughout 5 regions in Ohio. First place regional winners were awarded $5,000 in addition to the $500 donation they received for participating in the event. And this year's first place winners by region included Champaign County, Guernsey County, Lorain County, Ross County, and Van Wert County. Second place fairs received $3,500 in addition to the $500 donation they received for participating. The second place winners by region included Ashland County, Claremont County, Hartford Independent, Henry County, and Warren County. Congratulations to all the fairs who participated in this year's Fight the Hunger, Stock the Trailer program. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
We've got a dry slot in control over Ohio today, but it also means we've got some changeability in the forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. Here's what's going on. We've got wraparound backside circulation that's going to dominate in Ohio for the rest of this week. An upper-level low looks to be getting cut off from the jet stream over the Great Lakes, and so that circulation is just going to be here. Clouds rotating through. Today we're seeing winds come in from the west and northwest, relatively strong on this backside circulation, and I'm expecting temperatures to drop fairly handily here through the day, especially this afternoon. We are very chilly then for tomorrow, Friday, and into the start of the weekend. With the moisture rotating through the Great Lakes, I think we can see rain and wet snowflakes. Best chance of wet snow is going to be in all the overnight periods and near Lake Erie. I won't rule out minor accumulations at this point, but to be clear, our ground surfaces are still pretty doggone warm here. We do start to see temperature moderation as we go into the latter part of the weekend. Sunday, temperatures come off of these very, very chilly levels. Next week is rather unsettled. I think we have to deal with moisture out of a couple of waves. Late Monday overnight into early Tuesday, I think we can see a few tenths here and there. Coverage around 60%. Bigger system coming through for Wednesday afternoon into Thanksgiving morning. That's where we can see a 1/4 to 1 inch. And then we follow that up with a big batch of cold air after Thanksgiving's done. Going into that changeover from November to December, I think we can see some wet snowflakes out of that system. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Let's check in now with an update from Joel Panorwood.
It's that time of year where we start turning our eyes to South America, and as a result, the first in our series of South American updates, thanks to Seed Genetics Direct. Value, knowledge, performance, it's in our genetics. More information at seedgeneticsdirect.com. Geraldo Asiltia is an ag markets analyst with King Corn, a South American commodities analyst. And the first of our contributors this season says Brazil projected to harvest a record-breaking 166.14 million metric tons, 6.1 billion bushels, of soybeans this season, according to the National Supply Company, or CONAB. The estimate aligns closely with USDA's recent projection of 169 million metric tons. Now, together with contributions from Argentina and Paraguay, South America's total soybean production could reach 230 million metric tons. That's a historic high. While early planting has been challenged by drought and extreme heat, later rains have helped normalize crop development. The states of Paraná and Mato Grosso are expected to produce 40% of Brazil's soybean output. And on the corn side, CONAB estimating a total production of 119.8 million metric tons, about 4.72 billion bushels. That would be the second largest volume after last year's record. A large soybean harvest looming, seeing Brazil's storage infrastructure facing pressure, potentially affecting corn prices. Overall, the ag outlook for South America this season, he says, remains optimistic despite weather challenges. A much more in-depth analysis of what's going on down in South America and their sea of soybeans online today at ohioagdat.com. Thanks to Seed Genetics Direct. I'm Joel Norwood reporting.
And thanks, Joel.
Joining me from Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative is Tim Trotter. Tim, nice to see you. Let's talk a little about the recent action as we see dairy producers and their milk marketing pricing. What should we know now about our future?
Well, right now, this is the first time in 15 years there's been a national hearing. USDA has proposed their final rule. Now the vote will go to farmers throughout the nation to vote on whether it makes sense to them. You know, up in the upper Midwest, we have high utilization of manufacturing. We don't have a lot of fluid milk, so the impact for the upper Midwest is not as positive it is for the fluid milk areas like in the Southeast. But again, farmers will be voting on this. You know, again, we're looking for more reforms. You know, the concern we have is milk that's not currently in the federal order system. There's no assurance that they will have timely payments from the people they ship to. Also, in the federal orders, they provide the service of testing the milk to make sure they're getting paid for the components correctly. So there's a couple things we'll do in the Farm Bill to safeguard farmers who are outside of the federal order. But again, it's a historic moment, but it's not a blazing bullet of success for dairy.
Tim Trotter, my guest, as we visited a booth titled Voice of Milk.
The Kansas City Federal Reserve quarterly survey of lenders shows sharply lower farm incomes, deteriorating working capital, and higher demand for non-real estate loans. Farmland values continue to rise in the third quarter of 2024. Despite troubled farm incomes, cash rent values for cropland are near unchanged, while pasture rents are up 4% on average, according to the Kansas City Federal Reserve. The value of non-irrigated cropland was 5% higher in the third quarter of 24 than the year before. Irrigated cropland and ranchland values increased modestly at 0.3 to 1.6%. Cash rents on cropland were nearly unchanged, while pasture rents increased about 4%. 60% of respondents reported farm income that was lower than the previous year. Strong cattle prices have provided support to income in some regions. In Oklahoma, for instance, 30% of lenders reported lower incomes, while another 30% said they expect higher incomes. About 25% of the lenders say loan repayment rates have declined, and 40% say they expect rates of repayment to decline in the year ahead. Back with more after this.
Since 1926, Nationwide has been rooted in agriculture. Founded as the Farm Bureau Mutual Automobile Insurance Company with a mission to protect farmers and their communities, we honor our legacy by offering solutions that evolve with the complex needs of today's farms. As the leading insurer of America's farms and trusted by 8 farm bureaus for 100 years and counting, Nationwide is on your side. Number 1 insurer based on 2023 direct written premium per AM Best. Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Soybeans grown in Ohio and across the heartland are meeting the feedstock demand for clean fuels. Biodiesel is a clean-burning and reliable fuel that enhances engine life, power, and mileage. Plus, this high-performance fuel works in any diesel engine without modification. With biodiesel, we fuel the economy, do good for the environment, and support soybean farmers. Learn how using biodiesel can add value to every bushel of soybeans grown at soyohio.org. The latest global climate report from NOAA, National Centers for Environmental Information, shows the first 10 months of 2024 were the warmest on record across most of the world. North and South America, Europe, Africa, and Oceania had the warmest such periods on record. The January through October global surface temperature was 2.3 degrees Fahrenheit above the 20th century average, making it the warmest such period on record. North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Oceania each had their warmest year-to-date period. For the month of October itself, the NOAA reports note that global surface temperature was 2.38 degrees Fahrenheit above the 20th century average of 57.2 degrees, making it the second warmest October on record. With these temperature details, the NCEI Global Annual Temperature Outlook has now a greater than 99% chance that 2024 will rank as the warmest year on record. Regarding snow cover, NOAA says their report features a near-average snow coverage in October over the Northern Hemisphere. In North America, snow cover was 330,000 square miles below average, while in Eurasia, the snow cover was 230,000 square miles above average. Much of the eastern Russia area had above-average snow cover, and Canada had below-average snow cover. And in Washington, D.C., the National Pork Producers Council issued a statement about the unveiling of Senate Democrats' 2024 Farm Bill text by U.S. Senate Ag Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Chairwoman Debbie Stabenow. Though American pork producers appreciate Chairwoman Stabenows' efforts to publish Farm Bill text, this is simply not a viable bill, as it fails to provide a solution to California Prop 12, said NPPC President Lori Stevermeyer, a pork producer from Easton, Minnesota. Pork producers have continually spoken up about the negative impacts of this issue, and it is a shame these conversations were disregarded. In May, National Pork Producers Council secured 100% of pork producers' priorities in the House Ag Committee-passed bipartisan 2024 Farm Bill. In June, producers once again secured all policy priorities in the Senate Ag Committee ranking member John Bozeman's 24 Farm Bill framework. The National Pork Producers Council urging both chambers of Congress to swiftly consider and pass a farm bill this year that includes a fix to California Proposition 12, a state law that places arbitrary housing standards on the pork industry, creating uncertainty for pork producers as they look to continue their operations to the next generation. One of our speakers in session at the National Association of Farm Broadcasting last week said many of the pork prices in California are now 30 to 45% higher than the rest of the country, and they're wondering why. Time now for the Louis Dreyfus Grain Analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets putting together a fairly lackluster day on a Tuesday, finishing mixed. The wheat markets were a little bit higher still, I think mostly due to that geopolitical risk over in Russia with Ukraine and all of that. Corn pushing back off of its highs, ending up just a little bit lower, penny or two overall. And beans fell apart through the day, finishing 6 to almost 12 cents down. As we take a look at some of the reasons and some of the headlines in the marketplace yesterday, let's start with lack of demand or breaking news. The flash reporting system was again void of new sales yesterday, and it's been quieter following a flood of demand for U.S. products in October and earlier this past month. We did see a nice rush of sales 24 hours ago, of course, but it's been few and far between those bigger rounds of numbers. There is definitely a little bit of an escalation in the geopolitical turmoil surrounding Russia, Ukraine, and everything there. Argentina's wheat is moving along nicely, though, and headed toward a good harvest. Aggressively pricing here, and production could expand by close to 2 million metric tons. We're also hearing about an improvement in soy crush margins, not just here in the U.S., but in other parts of the world as well. Longer-lasting rallies are said to be a function of higher oil and soybean oil prices. Palm oil plays into that as well. We did hear some rumors that China overnight sold maybe 30 to 40,000 metric tons of soy oil into Southeast Asia. Malaysia's palm oil export tax is going to be raised here in December to 10% versus 8%. So that veg oil market is definitely going to be the key thing to look at.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight, December corn down 1 1/4 at $4.26. March 4.36 down a penny and 3/4. January beans $9.91 1/4 down 7 1/4. March off 6 3/4 at $10.01 3/4. On the wheat, July new crop down 2.5 at 581 3/4. In livestock, December cattle 186.57 up 247. December lean hogs 79.55 down 47. January feeder cattle up $2.50 at $252. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dale Minyo. This is the Ohio AgNet.